Well, I'm Bitcoin Katie. I think it was about 3-4 months ago now. I decided to start a YouTube channel. I wanted to be a female face in the Bitcoin world because, frankly, there aren't that many. The way that I found Bitcoin was 2017 at the height of there was a bit of a media frenzy. I tried to open up an account on a Hong Kong exchange, and once I got the account open, the exchange basically collapsed, and then found out that you could put your Bitcoin onto the Celsius platform and you could earn yield. And the yields were so much higher than anything that a bank was paying for cash or anything like that. I remember some rumors about Celsius and I dismissed it. And I went, no, these people don't know what they're talking about. We woke up one morning and that was it. We couldn't access our Bitcoin. Celsius had put a hold on they'd stopped all withdrawals. I also used FTX as my exchange to purchase my Bitcoin. And of course, FTX went down as well. That was like learning the lesson the hardest way. When that Bitcoin hit my Coinbase, it didn't sit on Coinbase even for 24 hours. It went straight into self-custody. You better be serious about your self-custody. Even if maybe you don't have a huge amount of your net worth now, you need to be thinking, if you're going to hold it, think about 2 years, think about 5 years, think about 10 years down the track.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Dad.
And I'm number 40, Anna Bevan, Chief of Stuff here at Sat Chats.
And we've got number 115, Bitcoin Katie, in the virtual studio today. I love it. I love when our guests have something that comes with their name.
Yeah.
So
identifier.
we had Blockchain Wayne. That guy was a legend. We had Simple Steve, who I'm best friends with him, even if he doesn't know it. You know what I mean?
He'll know soon.
Yeah. We're going to be hanging out tonight at our first annual Bit Pickin', which I'm really excited about. But now we got Bitcoin Katie, and that's like beautifully simple and focused. And I'm like, let's go.
Yep.
So we're going to be getting Bitcoin Katie's Bitcoin story today, but what we learned is that the biggest lesson she has to teach our Satillionaires today is self-custody. Bitcoin is good. Bitcoin you truly control is even better. So Bitcoin Katie, why don't you start off by introducing yourself to our Satillionaires, and then we'll jump into your story.
Well, I'm Bitcoin Katie, as you've already said, and I think it was about 3-4 months ago now, I decided to start a YouTube channel aimed mainly at beginners, but I wanted to also be a female face in the Bitcoin world because, frankly, there aren't that many. And so what I did is I started off, I think maybe my very first video that I posted was something like 5 mistakes that I made that you shouldn't make. I can't remember what the title was, but and one of those mistakes was not self-custodying your Bitcoin. And I touched on it briefly in the video, but basically the way that I found Bitcoin was 2017 at the height of there was a bit of a media frenzy around the end of 2017. I think it coincided with a all-time high. And that's when I heard about it. And I tried to open up an account on a Hong Kong exchange. And once I got the account open, the exchange basically collapsed. I'd never actually managed to send any money to them. It was not easy to buy Bitcoin. That wasn't even very long ago. That was about 8 years ago. It was not easy to buy Bitcoin in Hong Kong, at least. Maybe in the US it was easier, I don't know. Anyway, so I sort of gave up on it at that point, and then I came back to it again around 2020. And the reason that I came back to it is I distinctly remember I went out for lunch with some friends, And one of the guys was talking about how he had all of this money on, or crypto at least, on Celsius. And so I started looking into it. I thought, oh, what is this Celsius thing? And found out that you could put your crypto and your Bitcoin onto the Celsius platform and you could earn yield. And the yields were so much higher than anything that a bank was paying for cash or anything like that. And I looked at it and I thought, well, this is pretty amazing. And at that time, there were some fairly large YouTube channels and influencers talking about Celsius. And I thought, if these guys are in Celsius, then it must be all right. So I opened up a Celsius account and I started buying cryptos and Bitcoin, of course, but I wasn't just solely focused on Bitcoin, because at that stage I still didn't really know what Bitcoin was. I didn't understand the whole the purpose of Bitcoin, that the way that I understand it now. It was just number go up. All of these cryptos were number go up. And so I had this Celsius account, I had all this crypto on it, I was earning yield, they would pay me a nice chunk every week, and I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it just seemed so amazing. And, you know, I think it was 2022, around the time when there was that Terra Luna collapse. I remember everything all started happening at once. Terra Luna went down, and I remember hearing or reading online some rumors about Celsius, and I dismissed it. And I went, no, these people don't know what they're talking about. And I should have paid attention, because the people did know what they were talking about. And we woke up one morning and that was it. We couldn't access our Bitcoin. Celsius had put a hold on they'd stopped all withdrawals. We couldn't access anything. And I had a substantial amount of money tied up in that. So that was not a very good day or week or month. And at that stage, you know, nobody had any idea what was going to happen. You know, were we going to see anything back? And just to kind of add to the fun, I also used FTX as my exchange to purchase these, my Bitcoin and my cryptocurrencies. And of course, FTX went down as well.
So let me stop you right there. You're trying to tell us that you used FTX to buy Bitcoin and crypto, okay, which would go on to collapse spectacularly.
Yes.
And you were sending the Bitcoin and crypto from FTX to Celsius, which was promising some kind of yield that turned out to be an absolute scheme, correct? And you got that locked. So it's like, I mean, you were like, I don't know. It was like you were buying rotten meat from the butcher to go have it cooked wrong by a chef. It's like, there's like a whole chain of not handling it correctly. That's insane.
It was basically everything that you could possibly have done wrong at that point in time, I did wrong. So, 2000. So when was it? I think it was around 2020, early 2024, if I remember correctly. We have actually been seeing distributions since then from Celsius. So they returned Bitcoin and Ethereum back to their creditors. I think FTX as well, but at that point in time, fortunately, I did not actually hold, I think I had a few thousand on FTX, nothing life-changing. So I think FTX have also been doing distributions. I'm not really sure, I haven't been following it. But anyway, so that was trial by fire. That was like learning the lesson the hardest way. And boy, did I learn it. You know, at that point in time, when I received that Bitcoin back, so they sent it to, they distribute it on Coinbase. When that Bitcoin hit my Coinbase, it didn't sit on Coinbase even for 24 hours. It went straight into self-custody.
Yeah.
Because by that stage, I said, no way is anybody else taking care of this. It's me 100%. So that was a hard lesson to learn, but it was learned well.
So tell us then about self-custody, right? Like, let's imagine that I am listening to this and I don't have any Bitcoin yet, and I'm thinking that I will go to Coinbase and I'll connect my bank account in, I'll buy $50 and I'll leave it there, right? And in my Coinbase account, bam, hey, you got 50,000 sats, seems pretty good. Or maybe it's Fold, it's Gemini, River, Kraken, wherever. If I'm just getting started, is it okay to buy some on an exchange and kind of leave it? Or should I really take the time to teach myself about why self-custody is so important?
Yeah. Okay, so this one, I don't have a straight answer for this one, and it is actually something that I've considered a lot because of my channel. People ask me this all the time. This is like probably the number one question that I'm getting from people. And I think it's probably one of the biggest barriers. It seems to me that it's one of the bigger barriers to people actually entering Bitcoin. They think, okay, I'm going to buy it, but I know I'm supposed to self-custody. But self-custody is hard and scary, so I don't know what to do. So my thoughts on it is the following. So yeah, let's say I have a Coinbase account. I've bought a small amount just to kind of test the waters, figure out how it works, and I'm still learning about Bitcoin. I think if you're just buying a small amount to start with, don't feel like you have to immediately, just after I've just told my terrible story, but don't feel like you immediately have to rush out and the moment you buy it, figure out your top Bitcoin security solution. To me, it very much depends on what stage you're at. So I think it's okay when you're first starting out, let's say you're just buying small amounts. This answer is completely different if you go and buy a whole Bitcoin. That's another story. But for people who are just entering, they're buying maybe $50, $100, something like that. It's okay to leave it temporarily on your exchange whilst you figure out the next step. Now, some people might completely disagree with that, some of the more sort of hardline Bitcoiners, but I think that it's also important to not feel rushed into that process as well and get that part wrong, because that's also something else that you can go wrong with. As much as I encourage people to self-custody their Bitcoin, you also have to know, what hardware wallet am I going to use? How am I going to secure my seed phrase? What happens if something happens to me and, I go out tomorrow and I get hit by a bus and nobody in my family knows how to access my Bitcoin? You've got to think about all of these things. And the more that you are invested into Bitcoin, the more important that becomes. So I think in the beginning, if you're just, buying bits here and there on Coinbase, don't feel like you have to, you're just buying $20 or $50 or something. Don't feel like you immediately have to put it onto a hardware wallet. Take your time to figure out the best solution for you. I'm actually in the process now of, this is something that I've gone through myself. So I've gone from having someone else custody my Bitcoin, which went horribly wrong, and then to the most simple form of self-custody. And for me personally, now I'm working my way up. I'm looking at more secure setups, and I'm going to be running a Bitcoin node. I'm going through the process of getting everything for that set up as well. So I'm going to have everything as secure as I can possibly have it. But for me, the stakes are a lot higher because I'm past that stage of DCAing small amounts of Bitcoin off Coinbase or something like that. So I think it very much depends on the stage that you're at, and it also depends on your technical abilities. Even though some of these wallets, they aren't highly technical, some of these hardware wallets are really easy to use. So for example, I started off with a ledger, a very simple ledger device, but now I'm moving on to other devices such as the cold card. Now, I wouldn't say to somebody who just gone out and purchased $100 or $500 or $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, now you have to go out and get a cold card and you have to figure out how to operate it. You know, that might be a bit overwhelming. So I think that it can be approached in stages, and it can be, you know, start with an easier solution first and then work your way up. But as I said before, the caveat is, if I am going to go out and buy a whole Bitcoin or 5 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin, forget you. Now you have to jump to,
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's not, the answer is not the same for everybody, but for beginners, don't feel pressure that the moment you purchase your first piece of Bitcoin, that you need a top security solution for it, because that's not necessarily the case. You can work your way up as your Bitcoin wealth increases and as your confidence increases and as your knowledge increases.
Well, that's a really good, nuanced answer to that question of self-custody, because people probably are trying to figure out, like, at what point should I learn more about this? And probably the easy answer is once you have enough Bitcoin to feel like you need to, you know?
Exactly. At the point where it would be life-changing to you if you lost that amount. I mean, you know, I know a lot of people that hold, they hold a small amount, and if they lost it, yeah, of course, nobody wants to lose money. Nobody wants to lose their Bitcoin, but it's not devastatingly life-changing. But if you're getting to the stage where, you know, if you've got a significant portion of your wealth being held in Bitcoin, you better be serious about your self-custody.
Yeah, I've seen some advice online that recommends getting started on a centralized exchange like Coinbase. Maybe you're buying $50 a month or $50 a week, some kind of dollar cost average, you know, even like an automatic recurring buy type thing. And when you get to 1 million sats that you have stacked, then it's time to say, okay, this is 0.01 Bitcoin right here. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, which it is, you know, I heard that you got into it for number go up originally, and maybe that's changed, but, you know, number going to go up, y'all. So you want to get that 0.01 Bitcoin somewhere safe so that you're not, because that's 1 million sats. And if it goes down with FTX, well, that's not cool. If it goes down with Celsius, that's not cool. And, you know, you're not the first person to come on the show and say, hey, I had my Bitcoin here and it collapsed. And it took years and years for some of it to get returned or whatever. So, you know, some advice I've seen is, hey, let it build up to 1 million sats and then, you know, figure out what comes next. You know,
Yeah. And there's another nuance, that something you just mentioned as well, that you also need to be thinking about not just what Bitcoin's value is right now, but you need to be planning also, when you do start to get serious about your self-custody, you need to be thinking about, what is that going to be worth in 5 years? What is that going to be worth in 10 years? You don't want to wake up one morning, realize that you've got a massive proportion of, or all of your net worth in this Bitcoin, and it's sitting on either Coinbase or, you know, it's on a wallet, but it's not very secure because your seed phrase is written down on a bit of paper, but you're not really sure where you put the paper and all that kind of thing. You know, you need to be planning for that as well. So even if maybe you don't have a huge amount of your net worth now, you need to be thinking, if you're going to hold it, think about 2 years, think about 5 years, think about 10 years down the track. I think that's another nuance as well.
Yeah.
That people need to be considering.
That's reminding me of number 33, Jameson Lopp. So you're number 115, way back in the day, earlier this year. We had Jameson Lopp on. He was our 33rd guest, and he's a big heavy at Casa, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It's kind of like a Bitcoin multi-sig storage solution type thing, right? And we asked him too, like, hey, what are the different levels of securing your Bitcoin, and how do you know when it's time to step up to the next level? And I had forgotten about this, but you're reminding me of it. He talked about the future value of your Bitcoin, and he basically said, hey, take a look at how much Bitcoin you have, multiply its value by 10. If you're still comfortable storing it the way that you're storing it, good.
Yeah.
If the idea of storing that new number makes you feel like you want to upgrade, it's time to upgrade. So if you had $1,000, sitting on an exchange, you should multiply that by 10 and say, well, I've heard that some exchanges collapse. Many of them get hacked. Bitcoin itself has never been hacked. Many exchanges get hacked because they're honeypots. They're pooling the Bitcoin, right? And it's much more worth my effort to hack into an exchange than to try to hack into your personal wallet, unless you're a whale. But you could say, man, there are some risks to leaving my Bitcoin in someone else's hands. Am I really comfortable? 1,000, okay, I got a job. It's no big deal. But 10,000, I think I do want control of that myself. And, when we are bringing new Bitcoiners on board here at Sat Chats, we recommend that they set up Blue Wallet on their smartphone so that we can send them their Satoshis, right? Because we give away Satoshis on this show and on our live game show. And that's kind of a super simple form of self-custody. It's like an app on your smartphone. It's the closest thing to replicating an experience that they've already had. It almost sounds like your super simple first self-custody setup, however, was a little bit more secure than that, where you had your separate signing device to kind of, can you explain to our Satillionaires, how did it feel when you first decided that you wanted to get self-custody, and what steps did you take specifically to get that Bitcoin off of Coinbase once it had been returned to you into your own custody?
So I mentioned before, at that time, I had a Ledger device, and it was a super simple, I think it was one of their, I don't remember what type it was now, but it was one of the super simple ones. It looks exactly like, these things look exactly like a USB that you would plug into your, what are those things, those sticks that you save things onto? Can't think of what they're called now.
Yeah, USB stick.
Yeah, USB stick. So what I did is I got myself a couple of those, and so I went through the process of setting them up. This was a while ago now, so I don't actually remember what the process was, but went through the process of getting them set up. That was pretty straightforward. But I'd always been in the habit of, so at that point in time, I'm transferring some fairly significant amounts of Bitcoin, significant for me. And something that you want to do, especially if you've got a big chunk that you want to transfer, is always do a test first. So you take just a little bit. It doesn't matter if things go wrong, you've stuffed up the address or anything goes wrong. I always, this was a habit that I always had. Everything was tested with a small amount first before the large amount was sent. So which always made me feel a bit more sort of secure, because that the first time you do that is a scary moment. I'm more used to it now, although I still get a little bit nervous, especially if I'm sending larger amounts. But I try to remember now what it was like to be a complete beginner using this hardware wallet. And, like you said before, people are more used to seeing, for example, they're used to having banking apps. They're used to having apps on their phones that show numbers, and somebody else takes care of it. And in the Bitcoin self-custody world, you are responsible. Nobody else is responsible. And a lot of people don't, I feel like a lot of people don't like this aspect of it. So the idea of self-sovereignty is great. The idea of taking care of being in charge of your own Bitcoin, holding your own Bitcoin is great, but there is responsibility that goes with that as well. And especially, like, again, if you've got a significant amount of your net worth in Bitcoin, you better be ready for that responsibility. And it's not just a matter of, so the way that I saw it when I first started was you transfer it over to your hardware wallet, whatever that hardware wallet might be. And that's it. You've done your job. But it does not stop there. So for me, it was a learning process. So I, transfer it over. And then I realized later on, I'm like, I can't remember how to operate this. What am I supposed to do when I need to move some sats, send some Bitcoin? What am I supposed to do? I might have left it sitting there for 6 months, 9 months before I revisited it again. And it's actually something that I almost think you need to practice as well. So that's something that I learned as well. You need to go in and make sure you know the process every time, so you don't forget, what am I supposed to do? Especially if you're a newbie or you're not so tech savvy. So it's kind of building up that. I think it's important that you take the time to build up that confidence to practice, to make sure you know how everything works. How do I send? How do I receive? And even, I'm someone who holds Bitcoin. I haven't sold any for a long time. But if it's something that, you need to, let's say you need to sell small portions. Let's say you're living off your Bitcoin. You need to sell small portions of it. You've invested a large amount and you need to sometimes sell some for various living expenses. Make sure you know how to do that as well. The self-custody is important, but if you think that in the future that you're going to need to, you need to know how to buy and sell as well. And you need to know how that money, if you need to sell some, you need to know how that money is going to hit your account. So all of these things, I think you need to go through these processes, even if it's just with small amounts, and test it. Make sure you know how to buy it. You know how to get it into self-custody, whatever your self-custody setup is. And then if you need to get it out of self-custody, say you need to sell a small amount, you've got some kind of emergency or whatever, make sure you know then also how are you going to sell it? Once you've sold it, how is that money going to hit your bank account? Like, you need to know the whole process. There's we're so used to going back to the whole, banking apps and all that kind of thing. We're so used to other people or businesses or companies or banks or whatever doing all this for us. So it is quite scary when you first start out to think of the responsibility that you have. But you do become more comfortable with it over time, or at least I have. And especially now that I know my setup is becoming more secure, I am feeling a lot more comfortable than I did before.
Well, I think something that you said I find very comforting, because starting out, I didn't start out with any understanding of an exchange. Stuart has taught me everything I know about Bitcoin, and slowly some other people over time. But we start with Blue Wallet, as he mentioned. And so the concept of leaving my Bitcoin on an exchange is foreign.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that our pre-coiners, when they select sats at the end of the show, that's something that's a reality for them too, is they're like, oh, okay, you can put it on an exchange. Why would I do that? Like, it's mine. It's in my wallet. I own it. It makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're talking about how the responsibility is so huge. Mm-hmm. But I think, as you stated, with everything you've explained, is that it grows as your knowledge grows. And I think about that as you're explaining this. I love wine. I know about wine. And what I love about wine is that it's a big, giant world. You can choose to talk about like the agriculture side. You can talk about the tastes, like everything you can choose to talk about. But what you do is you start with what you know. You start with what you're interested in. You start with, like, I love French wine. So we start with French wine. We work our way through the entire regions in the country of France. And so that's sort of what you're explaining with Bitcoin is you're growing with your knowledge. And as you're more interested in something, you're taking small steps to get there, to being proficient and knowledgeable and be able to have a sustained understanding. So you're truly learning, not just memorizing for a test.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's so how long have I been doing this now for? Let's say if I started 20, 25 years, and I am still learning loads. Like it's just an ongoing process. And like I said before, it almost needs to be practiced as well. You need to have so for self-custody, it's not just a set and forget. You need to practice the skills of self-custody and make sure that you're refreshed and you're up to date and you know how everything works, where everything is. I'm actually a client of the Bitcoin Way, and they're holding my hand through this whole process. So that's fantastic. And I don't know, like I wanted to do this anyway, and when I learned that there was actually, people out there that could help me and make sure I did everything right, that was a huge relief. Yeah.
Shout out the Bitcoin the Bitcoin
Way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Show at satchats.com if you want to sponsor. Okay. We're out here doing Satoshi's work, orange pilling pre-coiners one at a time, and collecting incredible Bitcoin stories like we're getting the one from Katie. I kind of want to do a quick overview here because we may not be giving our Bitcoin beginners or our pre-coiners enough credit when we say, look, it's okay to get started with a centralized exchange where you just go ahead and connect in your bank account, buy some Bitcoin, and just keep learning, because we do believe here that if you get some Bitcoin and keep learning, you will become more and more interested. You'll start exploring all the different regions of France. Shout out Languedoc-Roussillon. That's my home. That's my region up there. Shout out Montpellier. But anyways, it also is not too terribly complicated to set up your first smartphone wallet and, do like we do here, where we send the Satoshis that are in our self-custody directly to our guest, so that there's no moment whatsoever where that Bitcoin even touches in exchange. It is truly electronic peer-to-peer cash in that moment. And the sats go from us to them on their phone. It's kind of like having an app with a username and a password. And then, the next step after that, I think, is to have that signing device where people go, like, whoa. And they see a little Trezor or a Ledger. And they're like, hang on, this is starting to get a little scary. I'm not so sure. But it really is the exact same thing that we've all been learning about for years now, which is that two-factor authentication that we've been seeing, where, you used to log in at work because you're like, okay, here I go. I'm going to start doing my fiat day job. I love it. I'm earning money that's getting worse and worse over time. I'm so excited. And they say, okay, look, you're logging into your company email. You just put in your username and your password. But hang on, now you need to put in a code that we sent to your smartphone, right? And it's not scary to have a wallet on a smartphone or a desktop and to have a little device, because it's just the same thing as multi-factor authentication. Something is your username and password. Something you have is this real world device, because there might be someone out there who wants to hack into your wallet and send all of your Bitcoin somewhere else. And if someone manages to get into your Blue Wallet, for example, they could very well send all of the Bitcoin there to themselves. But if they get into your wallet and you have something like a Trezor or a Ledger, then they'll say, okay, I want to send all the Bitcoin to myself. It's like, okay, no problem. Just click a few buttons on that thing you actually have. And they're like, shoot, I'm not in America with Stuart and Anna Bevan. I don't have that little device, so I can't complete the transaction. So it's another layer. But you said you're starting to go and try to go to the next level. And maybe you could kind of tease that for us here. What does, if you go from centralized exchange to self-custody with a thing that you know and a thing that you have to kind of protect yourself, how do you go even further than that?
Okay, so I think the next leap is running your own Bitcoin node. So first would be making sure you have the most secure Bitcoin only hardware wallets. So that's kind of the step up from maybe your Ledger, your Trezor, things like that, would be to the air-gapped Bitcoin only, sort of considered, I guess, the creme de la creme of Bitcoin hardware wallets, and also to then running your own node, which is my next. I'm just waiting for my Start9 server to arrive. It's been taking, it's taking a long time. Something to do with tariffs. I'm not sure.
The story of our fall.
So yeah. So
Bitcoin Katie's going hard because what you're actually saying even more than what you're saying there, because running your own node is part of how you become a Bitcoin philosopher king, is what number 60 Simple Steve says. I used to think the miners were better than the nodes, and he was like, no, the nodes are the philosopher kings of Bitcoin, and the miners just do the work. And I was like, whoa.
I'm going to run a miner as well.
I like that.
Still working on that. Yeah, both node and a miner.
And he did send me I asked him what is the elite Bitcoin stack? How do I become a true Bitcoiner? Because I still feel like Pinocchio and I want to be a real boy. He's like, you need 3 things: your own node, your own miner, and your Bitcoin in self-custody. Those 3 things, that's it. That is the Bitcoin stack. And it makes you a self-sovereign individual, right?
Yes. And you also need to make sure that your seed phrase is secured properly.
Yeah. Ooh, don't want to be losing the seed phrase.
Don't want to 00000 passcode.
Yeah. You don't want to lose that. That would be horrible.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Start9, and we run a node here at Sat Chats, but it's just on a computer. Next door where producer Jeremy is hanging out right now. Start9, that's sovereign computing, Bitcoin, Katie. We're talking about being sovereign in Bitcoin. You're talking about sovereign computing where you control your own server. I mean, there are guys that send text messages from their own smartphone they control to their Start9 server to their wife, where there's this communication did not touch any part of the internet I don't control, and it's insane.
Secure.
So you're going deep. You're going deep.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Minor. I think that's that's the gap for us right now. I think
it'll need to go somewhere not close to here, because all you'll hear while we're trying to take with Bitcoin K is I'm like, so tell you what you like, oh my God. And Jeremy will be like, God, the audio is horrible. We got to reshoot it. But yeah, we do need a miner. So let me pause right there, Katie, because we're starting to go down a rabbit hole that is so interesting to me, and I know to a lot of Bitcoin beginners out there who want to go deeper and deeper and deeper. But we've just, we're not going to be able to fit it all into a single chat about sats, right? It's a chat. So we do ask each of our guests if they'd be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. You're shaking your head yes. Would you be willing to come back on?
Absolutely, 100%.
Let's go.
Awesome.
I'm really looking forward to your return to the show, because at that point you'll be like, I am fully a sovereign individual and no one can take my money or my information or my security away from me. Here's what I did. Bam, bam, bam. And we'll go even deeper.
She's like started a whole new channel called Sovereign Katie.
I like that. Sovereign Katie. That's the evolution from Bitcoin Katie to Sovereign Katie. That's the new YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm going to recap our conversation here today because it was incredible. And then we are going to make you an offer in exchange for all the value that you've brought to us here today. So we did have number 115, Bitcoin Katie, on the show here today. She's a Kiwi. So shout out to the first Satillionaire, Lucola Bang, my boy. I love you, guy. Hit me up in the comments. And also Draco, who told us the story of getting trapped in Zimbabwe during the pandemic and having to deal with hyperinflation that included taking a $10 US to a teenager in the parking lot of a grocery store to get several trillion Zimbabwean dollars in a duffel bag to go into the grocery store to buy a small amount of food. So the Kiwis, they're wild. They're wild. And they're a particular favorite of mine here on the show. So watch out for some trivia on the, on TikTok next block there. So what did Bitcoin Katie do? She got interested in Bitcoin around 2017 for the reason that most of us do, which is, number go up. Mm-hmm. And when number go up, my wealth go up. And when my wealth go up, my life get better. Right? And she tried to get herself set up on an exchange in Hong Kong, ostensibly because you were still in that leg of the world at that time. Couldn't even get yourself set up to send some money in to buy Bitcoin before that exchange collapsed. So you left it alone for a while, because I think a lot of people would if that's your first experience with it.
Cool off a bit.
And then in the 2020s, a series of events came to pass whereby you got interested in Bitcoin again, along with crypto, thanks to Celsius, which was promising yield. They were promising to pay you interest, right, on your Bitcoin and on your crypto in exchange for custodying it with them. And you said, okay, sounds really great. What I'm going to do is get some Bitcoin and some crypto from Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried over at FTX, which was swooshing all of its tokens over to its other company, Alameda Research, without telling any old body. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to send it to Celsius. All right. So I'm going to go to one shady spot and I'm going to deliver the stuff to another shady spot. And then ostensibly watch the Celsius exchange collapse and then the FTX exchange collapse. And Bitcoin Katie was like, bruh, what is going on here? Where am I? Why is this so sketchy? I love that you didn't just turn off, though. You kept going. You kept learning. And when Celsius finally distributed some or all of your, holdings back to you by somehow delivering it to Coinbase, which was actually not being returned to you, you're like, nah, this is coming to me right now. Love you, Mr. Brian Armstrong. Okay. Show at satchats.com if you're interested to either come on the show or sponsor us. But I'm just going to go ahead and no hard feelings. Let me get that Bitcoin. And you took that Bitcoin into self-custody. That's the biggest lesson you've learned in Bitcoin. It's such an important lesson. And, for some people like Adam, who is the CEO of Bitcoin Well, he's number 103. Jack Mallers, I think, as well, who's the CEO of Strike, they hammer self-custody as one of the most valuable aspects of Bitcoin, the ability to actually own something in your life for real.
Yeah. And
we covered a lot of great setups for self-custody, moving from a centralized exchange into a smartphone wallet. From there into, let's say, a smartphone wallet plus a signing device, or maybe a desktop wallet and a signing device. Mm-hmm. And then just absolutely yeeting yourself into the deep end of sovereign computing with Bitcoin Katie, and getting your Start9 server ready to go and your own node, your own miner. Let's go. So
I want to hear about that next time.
Yeah, I think what we want to do with you, Bitcoin Katie, is check in on your sovereign Bitcoin journey here in 9 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We want to see how far you can go and how much you can teach us so that we can catch up and be like you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a break here for our lead sponsor.
Our lead sponsor is Ithaca Hummus. And this is the Graza collab. It is the most recent Ithaca Hummus.
Olive
flavor.
oil and sea salt.
Yeah, we have 13 or 14 flavors. Wait, I need
Oh, yeah, and let's get you a half crack.
a half cracker.
We've determined that the full cracker's too much for Anna Bevan.
Too much. I need the half cracker.
So I've got a fat glob here on some woven wheat. I'll serve as your taste buds here today.
Yep, here we
Cheers.
go. Mm.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Creamy mouthfeel.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like a gentle olive oil flavor that's like not too peppery.
Right.
It
But also not super runny either. Like the flavor is the olive oil, not in the full texture.
yeah. It makes me want to eat more food. Maybe with some olive oil in it.
Yeah.
Like I want to like put some olive oil in a pan and do something with it. I hate cooking, so I'm not going to do that, but it makes me want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Delicious. All right.
Very good.
So next time you're in the United States of America, number one, make sure that it's 9 months from now and that one of your stops is here in Raleigh so that we can have you in the studio.
Exactly.
But number two, you can snag some of that hummus. Try it. Come back to the comment section of the video. Tell us what you thought about it. So now that you have sat there and watched us eat food, which I'm sure you were expecting and enjoyed.
Because it's dinner time there. So she's probably going to eat dinner.
Holler. True. Now
Yeah.
we are going to make you an offer, and I'll turn it over to you, Abes, to make it happen.
All right. So we have $50 in an acrylic case, 50 fiat. We don't want to touch it because it's a dirty, stinky old bill, as Stuart will say.
We try not to touch it.
No. So we will offer you $50 in fiat or $50 in Satoshis, which will be 44,600 sats. What would you like to choose?
Sats all the way.
Sats all the way.
Excellent.
Sats all the way.
Perfect.
Yes. Sats
Our
all the
high fives
way.
are so good.
God, yeah, we have good high fives. So, Bitcoin Katie, you bring our show's scoreboard to 106 guests who have stacked the sats, along with 9 who need a little bit more time. And when they come back on in 9 months, we're going to keep working with them. You know what I mean?
Wow. So you had people who chose the note.
Oh, chose the note. They chose the note.
did.
They did.
They did.
And we made note of the fact that they chose the note. And we're like,
Yeah.
noted.
Yep. Nation state paper
Woof.
or government tokens.
Yep. Oh, it's like, oh, you like, so you like centralized tokens, huh? Yikes. So we're very happy that you stacked the sats. Where can we send our satillionaires to get more Bitcoin Katie?
To my Bitcoin Katie channel on YouTube.
Let's go. Okay, and
Perfect.
we will put the link in the show notes of this episode for our satillionaires. If you enjoyed Bitcoin Katie's episode focusing on self-custody, if you think more Bitcoiners should take their Bitcoin into self-custody, smash the subscribe button on YouTube. When we reach 10,000 subscribers, we will choose one from among you and drop 2 million Satoshis.
2 million sats.
Not 44,600.
Nope.
2 million. Okay.
Quite a bit more.
Enough sats for you to go, shoot, I got to figure out how to take this into self-custody.
Definitely going to need 2-factor authentication.
Yeah. And by the way, we won't send them to you unless you got your own wallet. So we'll help you take care of that.
Yeah.
You also need that subscription to play our live game show Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Okay. TikTok Next Block, the game where you play for 1 million sats.
1 million.
Bitcoin and Sat Chats trivia. We'll say, how many freaking horrible collapsed exchanges did Bitcoin Katie use? And they'll be like, did she use Celsius? Or all of the above? And the answer will be all of the above. She used all of them. Okay? I love
But
that
she
question.
can laugh about it now.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That shows growth.
That is a banging
It wasn't funny at the time.
No.
Yeah, I can laugh
No,
now.
I'm sure it was not.
So while you're there, make sure to turn on notifications so that you see when we post a new video.
The bell.
Spoiler alert. Yeah,
The bell.
Spoiler alert, it's weekdays at 11 a.m., okay? Weekdays at 11 a.m., we put out episodes just like this one, and on Fridays, it's our live game show. So come on in.
Live game show.
The live of the game show. All right. You can also, if you see us doing Satoshi's work here and you want to help us orange pill the world, you can zap us your sats on the Lightning Network, satchats@getalby.com. You can send us on-chain Bitcoin to the address in the show notes. We will hoover up each one of your precious Satoshis, and we will give it to the next brand new Bitcoiner, okay? We're like a teaching hospital or something.
Yeah.
And like
Seattle Grace, one could say.
Yeah, and they can't find a van. You're like, God, Diesel, this lady has poked me like 12 times. And like, well, you got to learn. And it's like, okay, I like that. I like teaching the next generation. I'm here for that. So if you're here for that, do that for us. You can also come tell us your story, satchats.com, to grab your slot in the studio today. Sponsors, holler at us, show@satchats.com. Okay? Thanks so much for watching. Remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Our guests' views are their own. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.